Two homeowners, same generator, wildly different bills. A Generac Guardian standby generator, 22 kilowatts, natural gas, standard install, nothing unusual about either house, a normal 200 amp panel on a normal suburban lot. One quote came in at $16,000. The other, 3 towns over, at $30,000. Same brand, same box, same job, and a $14,000 gap that neither dealer is losing a dime on. If you've ever gotten a number like that and felt like you were being played, you were right. And it had nothing to do with your homework. What nobody tells you walking into this purchase is that the real markup almost never lives inside the generator sitting in the crate. It lives in 7 fees stacked on top of it, some real, most padded, and one hiding in plain sight that even careful buyers miss. I've spent 35 years wiring these systems into houses and getting the 2 AM calls when the cheap ones failed. I've seen the same 22 kilowatt unit installed for $10,000 by one crew and $30,000 by another, on houses that were, electrically speaking, twins. Today we're taking every one of those 7 fees apart. What they actually cost, what a fair number looks like, and which brand differences are real versus which ones are just an excuse to pad the bill. Nobody in this industry talks openly about where a bid gets padded, because the padding works. That stops today, starting with the fee that shows up before you've even agreed to buy anything. Number 7. The site assessment, rush, and handling fees stack. Some dealers charge a flat fee, sometimes $100, sometimes several hundred, just to send a technician out to walk your yard and look at your electrical panel before they'll hand you a real number. That visit, a rep with a clipboard checking your meter location and your panel capacity, should be baked into a competitive quote, not billed as a separate charge whether or not you buy from them. A dealer confident they'll win your business rolls that walkthrough into the estimate. A dealer charging you just to show up is often the same dealer padding the rest of the bid, because they've already decided you're paying for their time no matter what you choose. Stack the rush fee on top of that. Ask your local permitting office to expedite an electrical or gas permit, and that processing charge can jump 75 to 200% over standard timing. I mean, think about that for a second. You're paying extra to make a government office move faster on paperwork they were going to process anyway. Sometimes that speed genuinely matters. A storm's forecast for the weekend, and you need the unit live. Most of the time, it's urgency you don't actually have, sold to you like it's your only option. And if you bought your own generator instead of letting the dealer sell it to you, expect a handling fee, usually $200 to $600, to cover the paperwork of installing a unit they didn't sell you. That one's semi-legitimate. It covers real coordination time. Someone still has to pull permits and warranty register a unit they didn't profit from up front. Negotiate it. Don't just eat it without asking. And don't be afraid to ask a second dealer for their handling rate before you commit to the first one. None of these 3 are the fee that cost you real money. They're the appetizer. Keep them in mind, because the smallest charge on this list so far is about to look tiny compared to what's waiting at number 4. Number 6. The extended warranty you're often handed for free anyway. Every major standby generator ships with a manufacturer's base warranty, typically 5 years on a Generac unit. Kohler runs a deeper standard warranty on some models, 5 years or 2,000 hours, whichever comes first, and it covers parts, labor, and technician travel, which matters if your unit ever needs a service call outside your own maintenance work. That's a real, verifiable difference between brands, not marketing fluff, and it's part of why a Kohler installed job can run a bit higher than an equivalent Generac job for legitimate reasons. Where the padding shows up is on top of whatever base coverage you already have. Dealers love selling you more, usually $380 to $580 on a Generac unit to extend coverage out to 5 years, more if you push further. Here's what they don't lead with. Manufacturers regularly run promotions where a 7 to 10-year extended warranty comes included at no extra charge, tied to certain retailers or certain sales windows. Costco has run it. Sam's Club has run it. And if that were the only version of this trick, you might just chalk it up to normal upselling. But then you learn the exact same 10-year coverage was handed out free to the homeowner 3 streets over who happened to buy during the right promotion. That's the kind of number that makes accountants cry, paid by people who never asked whether the extension was already sitting on the table for free. You have limited time to say no to the next upsell before a technician's already written it into your service plan, and that clock starts the day the generator gets installed. Number 5. The annual maintenance contract nobody explains clearly. Dealers push annual contracts running $175 to $450 a year, sold as protecting your investment. Here's what they don't spell out. A basic air-cooled standby generator needs an oil change, a filter change, and a spark plug check on a schedule tied to running hours, commonly every 200 hours or every 2 years, not automatically every single year, no matter what. The parts for that visit, a filter, plugs, a small synthetic oil kit, run under $100 total. If you're comfortable doing small engine maintenance yourself, the kind of work you'd do on a lawn tractor or a pressure washer, or you know someone who is, you can cover this without a contract at all. Where the contract earns its keep is priority dispatch. If the power goes out across your whole region and every generator company's phone rings at once, a maintenance contract customer often jumps the line ahead of a walk-in call. If you live somewhere that loses power for days at a stretch and you're never going to touch a wrench yourself, that's a legitimate reason to keep the contract. If you're neither of those homeowners, you're paying a yearly fee for a phone call you'll probably never need to make. This next fee is the one that even generous, trusting buyers can't really defend once they see the real number sitting next to it. Number 4. The automatic transfer switch markup. This is also the one place on this list where I need you to slow all the way down, because part of this fee is not optional, and I don't want you cutting the wrong corner to save money. Every standby generator needs an automatic transfer switch. That's the device, usually mounted right next to your main electrical panel, that disconnects your house from the utility grid the instant the power drops and switches it over to the generator, then switches it back when the power returns. It's required by the National Electrical Code full stop, and it exists to stop your generator from backfeeding electricity into a supposedly dead line and killing a utility crew member working to restore your power. In 35 years, I saw enough close calls from homes without a proper transfer switch that I don't joke about this part. This is not a fee to shop around on price alone. It has to be installed by a licensed electrician, no exceptions, no shortcuts, and no cutting it for a cheaper manual switch unless you fully understand and accept the trade-off of having to physically flip it yourself every time the power drops. Here's where the markup lives instead. A 200-amp transfer switch, the rating most whole home systems need, retails for well under $1,000, right around $969 at a major home improvement retailer, sitting in a box next to the panel it's designed to mount beside. A 100-amp switch, sized for a smaller partial home setup, runs considerably less. Installers commonly bill homeowners $1,800 to $5,500 for that same 200 amp switch installed. Some of that gap is genuine labor, mounting the switch, wiring in the load center connections, running conduit if needed. Real labor on this specific job is a few hours of a licensed electrician's time, not a few days. Where it gets worse is the bid that grows after you've already committed. An electrician quotes you $1,800 for the switch and its installation. By the time the crew shows up, that number has become $3,500 in what the trade calls a change order. That jump from an initial number to a much higher one once you're already locked in is one of the most common complaints in residential transfer switch installs. And it works specifically because most homeowners never learn what the part costs on its own before agreeing to anything. Get the exact part number and the retail price before you sign. Ask your electrician directly what portion of that line item is the part and what portion is labor. A contractor proud of their pricing tells you without flinching. One who gets vague or annoyed at the question just told you something too. If you're finding this useful, hit subscribe. I break down where generator, battery, and solar quotes get padded every week, and I'd rather you catch it before you sign than after. All right, here's where the padding moves outside your house and into the ground. Number 3. The gas line subcontracting markup. Most whole home standby generators run on natural gas or propane, and getting fuel from your meter to the unit means running a dedicated gas line, almost always subcontracted out to a licensed plumber or gas fitter working alongside the electrical crew. Real cost for that work runs $15 to $25 per linear foot for a simple interior run, $35 to $50 per foot if the line has to be trenched across a yard or routed around obstacles. Most homes need somewhere between 30 and 60 feet of line depending on where the meter sits relative to the generator pad. A typical job nationally lands right around $1,000 all in. Dealers frequently hand you a single flat number labeled gas connection, no breakdown attached, and that number can run well past what the per-foot math supports for your actual distance. One electrician sharing his numbers in a trade forum described a plumbing subbid of $1,100 for less than 15 feet of pipe, more than double what the per-foot rate should have produced for a run that short. One real cost that does belong on this list, and isn't padding, is a gas meter upgrade. A 20 to 22 kilowatt unit needs a decent-sized supply line and a meter that can feed the generator and the house at the same time. If your existing meter genuinely can't handle that combined load, a meter upgrade running around $1,000 is a legitimate charge, not a scam, and your utility usually has to sign off on it either way. Here's a tip that saves real money before the bid ever gets written, though. Placement matters. Gas pipe costs more per foot to run than electrical wire does. So, if you have any say in where the generator sits on your property, putting it closer to your gas meter shrinks the most expensive part of this job before a single line item ever shows up on paper. Ask your installer for the per-foot rate and the actual measured distance from meter to unit, and do the math yourself before you accept a flat number. Number 2. The permit fee marked up on the way to your invoice. Actual electrical and gas permits for a generator installation run somewhere between $80 and $450 across most of the country. Some cities run higher. New York City generator permits are value-based and can run from $75 up past $1,000 depending on the job. Parts of California can push past $500 once plan review gets added in. Some states calculate the fee as a small percentage of the job's total value rather than a flat number. Those are real government fees, and someone has to pull the permit, pay it at the counter, and stick around for the inspection that comes after the work is done. What shows up on some invoices instead is a line called Permit and Processing, running $500 to $800, quietly marked up from whatever the actual permit cost the installer. And no, I'm not making that up. Ask any electrician who's pulled 100 of these permits what they actually cost at the office window. The fix here is simple. Ask for the permit receipt. A legitimate installer has it because they had to pay that exact amount to the same office you could call yourself. If the padding on this list stopped here, you'd walk away with your wallet a little bruised, but basically fine. It doesn't stop here, and the last one might be the fee that makes you the angriest, because it's the one built to hide in plain sight. Number 1. The concrete pad fee for a pad you might not even need. For years, every standby generator went on a poured concrete pad, and that pad ran around $1,000 for a typical 18-square-foot slab. More in seismic zones like California, where reinforcement gets added. That used to be a real, necessary cost, and plenty of older installs genuinely required it, along with a real load calculation for the electrician to confirm the panel and wiring could handle the new equipment. Here's what's changed, and what a lot of dealers are in no hurry to mention. Current generation air-cooled Generac units increasingly ship with their own composite base built directly into the unit, engineered to sit on compacted gravel or dirt, with no poured concrete required at all. The pad is already part of what you bought when you paid for the generator. If your dealer is still charging you $1,500 to $2,000 for a concrete pad on a unit that already includes its own base, you're paying twice for the exact same thing. Once when you bought the generator, and again when they bill you for a slab it doesn't need. That's the fee that even careful buyers miss, because concrete pads used to be standard on every single job, so nobody thinks to question it anymore. They just assume it's part of the process, the way it always used to be. Before you approve any pad line item on your bid, ask directly whether your specific model ships with a factory base, and whether your local code actually requires poured concrete underneath a unit that already has one. If the answer is that the generator already ships with what it needs, that line item should shrink dramatically, down to just gravel and leveling work, or disappear from your bid entirely. 7. Places a standby generator quote gets padded, and not one of them was the generator itself. Here's the number to hold on to. A standard 22 kilowatt natural gas standby install on a home with a modern 200 amp panel and a short gas run should land somewhere between $10,000 and $14,000 all in. If your bid runs well above that, and nothing about your house explains the gap, an old panel that genuinely needs upgrading, a long trenched gas line, a propane tank instead of natural gas, difficult access for the crew, that's your sign to ask for an itemized breakdown before you sign anything. Those are real reasons a bid climbs higher, and a fair installer will explain exactly which one applies to your house instead of just handing you a bigger number. This isn't just a generator problem. It's how a lot of home improvement bids get built. Real necessary costs bundled together with soft padded ones, all folded under a single number designed to be hard to question. The fix is the same every time. Break the bid apart, line by line, and ask what each piece actually costs on its own. What you should never do is cut the safety line items to save money. The transfer switch stays. The licensed electrician stays. The real permit stays. Those aren't the scam on this list. The markup sitting on top of them is. Get 3 bids, ask for every one of them itemized, and don't sign anything that just says 22 kilowatt installed with a single number underneath it. If this saved you a few $1,000s before you ever picked up the phone, that's the whole job done right here. I'll see you in the next one.